organizer with Oregon Action. We're a statewide social justice organization. What we're going to talk about, I don't know how we got democratizing money. I said democratizing our financial system. And we're going to talk about what we're doing, what people are doing in Southern Oregon, what they're doing in Oregon, and what they're doing around the country to address the political power and the financial power and reforming the banks, the financial system that we have in our country. Because as we've heard, we have these crazy problems that are just devastating our communities, but we need some solutions. And part of that is taking back our political power and taking back our financial institutions in a way that makes them democratically accountable and transparent and workable on a local basis for our communities. And that work is going on. So the first thing that's on the handout is a discussion about a state bank. I'm not going to ask the question, but I know that there's a lot of people here in the room that have been part of the movement for a state bank. So I'm going to cover it really quickly and generally. But in essence, around the country, people are looking to the North Dakota, which has a state bank, which started 90 years ago. The state of Minnesota began 90 years ago out of a grassroots movement called the Nonpartisan League. When the farmers were being oppressed by the railroads and the banks, they basically organized into a grassroots movement, took over the state of Minnesota, and their legislature elected a governor and created a state bank. And the way that it works, it uses the money that from the state of North Dakota, our money that goes into the state, and they loan that back out through local community banks so that that money can go into the local community for jobs and for student loans and ways that recirculates our money back into productive use in our communities instead of having it being sucked out, as Nancy so ably taught us in the first thing. So all across the country, people are saying, how can we begin in our states as a democratic institutions to say, let's have our state money go into a state bank. Here in Oregon, we have a state bank movement. This Oregonians for a State Bank, and if you Google it, you'll go on, you'll see their website. Part of that has started with the notion of move your money. So it's educating people about what is the value of our local community banks, of our credit unions, which we have democratic control over, and how that is the kind of system that we need to set up as opposed to the national banks. We've heard what they've done. Now how do we take our money and put that back in? And it's going to start with the state of Oregon starting to put its money into a state bank. We had legislation in the last legislature, came that close to passing. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything that we wanted, but it was a damn good start. What is the opposition to that? Come on, you guys. Who's going to be opposed to creating a system of money? What? Big banks, right. The Oregon Bankers Association has enormous political power. So one of the things that we need to build is not only we need to have the model of what we want in terms of a state bank, but we need to build the political power on our level, our grassroots people to say we can go toe-to-toe with the American Bankers Association, nationally with the large banks, and say we can win. And that's why all over the country states are looking to create state banks. California passed legislation. They're doing it by creating a commission that's going to outline how a state bank will work. In Oregon, we have a bill now called Invest Oregon that has our state treasurer Wheeler and Governor Kitzhaber as backing it as a way that we're hoping that we're going to be able to get through this legislature. It's going into the 2012, and so I'm going to talk to you at the end about how we can all help contribute to that. But let me add one other thing. So there's, in addition to creating state banks, many of us have been concerned about where our local cities have put money. So Oregon Action and many of our groups are part of a national coalition called the New Bottom Line, which is a group of the faith community grassroots groups that are going to go toe-to-toe with with the Wall Street banks. And part of that is move your money individually, but part of it is also say we need our institutions, our churches, our schools, our cities to move their money into local banks that work for us. So in Ashland, and on the back page of the handouts, it says residents ask city to rethink bank account. So one of the things that we found with support of Occupy Ashland was that the city of Ashland puts its operational money into Bank of America. And I don't need to go, we have all sorts of fact sheets about how unvaluable that is for the city. They made, in 2010, 6 business loans in Oregon. Well, you could go to a little tiny bank like People's Bank in Ashland and see that they're kind of the champions of business loans in the community and did more than Bank of America did in the whole state. So we need to keep our money in there. We need our city money to go there. It is a complicated issue, but all around the country, people are going to their city councils, and you have to do the research. Where is that money? Is it an investment? Is it an operational account? And then how do we get that back out? And that can work. The final thing that I want to mention that's in the handouts, and then we'll just take questions, is an interesting development that's come out of this democratization of banks movement, and that is there in proposals in San Francisco and Portland for not just a state bank, but a city bank. That there's actually, in San Francisco, I think they have maybe Portland, they have $2 billion of city money that could go, and rather they could put that directly into local community banks and make that work for their community so that we're putting that money right into Main Street in our local communities. So let me see what kind of questions people have. Yeah, go ahead.
Isn't it true that local banks and credit unions are regulated to where they can only create something like 10% of their loans for small business? Or
right.
Something like that?
Right. So it's, as you may know, that credit unions are not the favorites of banks, that the banks have really tried to regulate them into kind of a second-class position, and so they can do mainly consumer loans, but they can do a certain percentage of business loans. One of the things that we're looking at, and we found, was in Oregon in 2010, there was legislation passed that says that cities could actually invest in credit unions, which they've been prohibited from doing. And they have to create a collateralization fund. If 5 cities do that, then all the cities are going to be able to invest our money in credit unions. And so we're asking Ashland to be one of the, maybe the first city in Oregon to be able to do that. So when you look at it, we have to be able to eventually change the laws to give our credit unions kind of equal status. We've got to be able to get our cities and our institutions to be able to say, let's keep our money on a local level. And at least our experience in Ashland was that they are so booked in to the whole system that it takes quite a bit of pressure to begin to say, no, look, you've got to do it another way. But if we're going to say we don't like, though, if we can see the oppression of Wall Street banks, we have to create the systems on a local basis that we control, that are democratic, that are transparent, and that work for us, and it's going to be on a local level.
How close is Ashland to adopting these?
So it's going to take a bit, but when we made the presentation, the Ashland City Council said, yeah, that makes sense to us. As you may know, it's actually the city recorder is the clerk is the one who makes all the investments and has an investment policies. And so she is agreeing with us that they can make, over time, they're going to change the criteria and move from Bank of America, but it's going to take a little time. It may maybe take a year. Where they did agree that they could make the first initial investment in a credit union, so we just got to bring those two parties together, and that could happen maybe within the next 6 months.
So the city council is supportive.
Yeah, if you read that little article in there, it kind of says that they're, and we've had other work with them. Carol Boyson, with one of the city council people, is helping us kind of move that along, but it's going to take continued pressure. And here's the thing that I think that we need to, and this is what's great about this meeting today, is that if we're going to make these changes, we're going to have to start understanding the details of our financial system and how they work. And that's what's going to give us the ability to go in and make those changes. Okay, 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
Comment and a question. The comment is that higher ed has got 60% of its money in 5 Wall Street banks. So when you get that list, make sure you get higher ed involved, because I guess they're one of the worst. But your question is, you do trust what Wheeler's doing with this Reinvestment Act? Okay. Well, we had Steve Hughes down to do a symposium. Okay, so you're going to help us move this, but it's getting a little slippery in Salem. I'm in the Capitol building, multiple times each week, and Wheeler's office is getting weirder and weirder.
That's right. So just what he just said is that the treasurer and we love them that they're starting to move in the right direction, but are they doing it with a full participation of all the communities? I say the answer is no. What they've done so far is react to a state bank movement, and so they've moved a little there. But our job is now to go for the full enchilada. By the way, Jeff Golden did a great show on the state bank movement, including senior vice president that's been for 40 years at the North Dakota State Bank. It's going to air, I think, on January 24th. You can go on and find out online on Immense Possibilities. But it's a great primer on how the state bank has worked in North Dakota, why unemployment is still very low in North Dakota, how their community banks are really working. And so that's where we're going. We're going to have to work with Wheeler and those folks, because just themselves will not get us there.
It depends. Wheeler's office referred me to Hughes, so that, we're quick about it and make that happen, so they know where the pressure's coming.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, wait a minute.
I think
You're next, and then you're
next. Yeah. A quick question regarding the American Banking Association people. Are you following what legislators in the state are getting money from those folks, and that's why they might be opposing it? In Oregon, is there any information that you've had?
So let me tell you that the Working Families Party is one of the leading groups, and one of the things that they did was they went to all the legislators and asked who wanted to be endorsed by them, and they got a whole bunch of them that agreed to that, and that endorsement was on the agreement that they would support a state bank. So we're pretty clear about where the support is, and then I think we're getting a little clearer about where the opposition is.
Is there any way to track who what legislators get what money from what source?
It's the Associated Oregon Industries. They're the major lobbyists for all those interests, so you can track their website. And they're already going after they're trying to line up the vote. So it's Associated Oregon Industries, and the battle is already engaged.
So let me just say that one of the, because of the way that North Dakota being a Republican state, we've tried to make this a bipartisan issue. And one of the Republicans from Eastern Oregon has been one of the main backers of this bill. So we're trying not to make it a Democrat-Republican bill. We're trying to say this is a people bill that we can make happen.
So this is a little off the beaten path in terms of divestment from Ashland and the state bank, but I see Occupy constantly looking at like city council measures as a way to get things done. I'm wondering if Oregon Action has ever considered, either previously and as your experience as an organizer, have you ever looked at ballot initiatives and seen what kind of possible traction, if that's a possible route for whether it be Oregon Action to take this action from the divestment in the state bank, or a variety of actions if you think it's too complex, requires too many signatures?
I think it's a good opportunity. I think first you go to the decision makers and see if they'll do it. If they don't, then the opportunity to do both local and people are at least thinking about maybe it'll take a statewide initiative to create a state bank in Oregon, but that takes money and a lot of organization to do. So we're gonna take it a step at a time and then see where it goes. Yeah.
I just want to clarify, you said you're trying to get 5 cities. Is that throughout the state or throughout the county, or can you
In
elaborate?
Oregon.
In
And
Oregon.
so Portland has, the present mayor of Portland and one of the key candidates for the mayor of Portland have both said that they would like Portland to take advantage and invest in credit unions. And so we're hoping that they will also participate in this. But all of this is going to take people kind of understanding what the system is and then go in and pound. I got to say, if we did not pound on the city council in Ashland, there would have been only one vote for it. And so that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to do that on a state level and eventually on a national level.
Was it not a unanimous vote in Ashland?
It was.
And there's no reason for the city council to be opposed to this. They'd lose, I mean, unless they're getting money from the big guys.
Let me say, so on the size of the cities that we're dealing with in Southern Oregon, the biggest problem that we're creating for them is we're making it complicated for their staff. And so their staff people go, I don't want to, it's like everybody else, I got my money in there and I don't want to, get out of my life, And so we're asking them to think a little more clearly about the advantages of where we put our money and get past just kind of the inertia of, and inertia. And the other thing is that people do not know, just like Nancy pointed out, people are unaware of this. When we told people in Ashland that our money is being operated by bank, they go, oh, wait a minute, So we got to get that word out, and then we got to put that pressure on the thing too. Yeah.
The other day I was in the Ashland Food Co-op buying groceries and happened to talk to somebody who'd been there a while, and he relayed that in this past year, that one little grocery store has spent $250,000 going to Wall Street Visa and MasterCard banks because I have a debit card and I used to have credit cards but no longer, but people use plastic in order to pay for their groceries. So that store paid $250,000 just in 1 year. If you multiply that by all of the stores and entities that take credit cards and debit cards.
All of those things are things that we can do with a state bank. We can start taking back that kind of systematic bullshit and get it back to something that we can do. And those are all things, but these are large changes. We can make them, but it's got to build the political movement to do that. I had one other question. Oh. Ivan.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to point out that in the article on from the tidings there, it quotes Bank of America in the back page is saying that they have extended $168 million of credit to small businesses in Oregon in the first 9 months of this past year. And however, their definition of small business is if an organization has less than $20 million in annual revenue. So I think that just points out the double speak that we get, and when you hear the response from these big outfits, don't believe it.
Right. I know we must be running out of time, but go ahead. Deb.
One of the things that I learned when Rich and I went to People's Bank is that small banks are not always ready to get the business from the cities. So we have to get a state bank so they will have money behind them so that our money can then be sent from the community small bank like People's Bank or Liberty Bank, whatever the small banks are here. Then the state bank can help them. Because otherwise, they're just not ready. They don't have the ability to handle the city's money. The transactions are too much for them.
So the final point I want to say on the front of this is the notice for a meeting on Thursday the 12th at the Woolworth Building where everybody is welcome, where we're going to take the next steps in building the state bank movement and doing the local divest movement. And one of those steps that we're going to plan is going to be in early February, the state bank campaign is going to come to Southern Oregon. So we're going to have a big strategy forum meeting because then we're going to be going right back into the legislature. You know, Senator Bates supports it, Buckley supports it, but you know, Jason Atkinson out there in Central Point and there could be one of the key people that we have to move from Southern Oregon to get this bill through. So if you'd like to hear more about a state bank, about getting your local city to do it, show up at the meeting. Thank you.